We're continuing our discussion of relational database concepts. In the last module, we looked at Execute SQL, which is part of the Web2PY framework. With Execute SQL, it's easy to extract or insert data into the database using SQL commands. Now we're going to look at dictionaries. Now prior, we used inner joins to connect the product tables with the transactional table here. And now we're going to do the same idea with dictionaries, except we're going to link or join the authorized user or customers table with the transactional table here. So let's take a look at our customer table. Officially, it's known as the auth_user table, and we're going to load this into a dictionary. Now the key of the dictionary is going to be the ID value, and the contents or the values, everything else is going to be stored in the values of the dictionary. So dictionaries make it very easy to load information and then easily access them. Now prior, in our previous code, we looked at admin_view, and we used here an inner join using the SQL statement, and we executed it. Now with dictionaries, the code is going to be a little bit different, so let's take a look. So I've created a new method called admin_view1. Now the first few lines of code are going to be the dictionary code. So we start off with user dictionary, and we use these curly brackets to indicate that we are creating a dictionary. And then we use user rows. I created a variable called user rows, and we go through the auth_user table and we select all the users. These are all of the customers here. Now we're going to loop through all of the customers, and through each passage through the loop or through each iteration, we're going to create a dictionary with a name with a key value pair. Now the key is going to be the ID, as you can see here. We're inserting or we're adding a new element to the dictionary with the key, and the value is going to be the first name and last name, because that's what we actually want to join and display in our code or in our display page. So essentially, these first 4 lines are creating a dictionary of all the customers of all the authorized users. And the dictionary has a key and a value pair. The key is going to be the ID value, and the value, or the thing we want to display, is going to be the first name and the last name. Now the last half of the method is the same. We start by building the SQL string, and then we use the execute SQL command. Now there's one difference. Now notice before we only had 4 columns, and now we have a 5th. Now the 5th column is from the orders table or the transaction table, and it stores the ID number. Now this is an integer, but we're going to use the dictionary to look up the value from that key and display the first name and last name. So let's go ahead and explain this a little bit further. So here's a diagram of our database schema, and as we discussed before, we're linking the products table with the transaction table using an inner join and a SQL statement. But for the order ID, or for the customers, we're linking with the transaction table using a dictionary. We'll use the key from order ID and display the first name and last name. So let's take a look at the view code. We're on the main edit page for our Pluralsight application, and here we have the view called products/admin_view1. And let's take a look at the code. So this is similar to our prior code. We still have the 4x in rows and the pass statement, which allows us to iterate through our loop. But the slight difference is now we have a 5th column, and that 5th column can be seen through here, where we are actually getting the dictionary value, which is an integer, but displaying the first name and last name. So that's the key difference between using a dictionary and a execute SQL command, where we have already joined the tables through the SQL command. So when we display the results, we get 5 columns instead of 4, and the 5th column shows the names. And here we have the 2 customers, the fictitious customers that we've created previously. Instead of showing the ID numbers, the dictionary does the link so that we can take the ID number or the key value, and instead of displaying that number, we display the first name and last name. Now it's worth to take one more look at the view code or at the method and look at what's being returned through the locals. So this is the admin_view1 code once again, and as always we return locals, but in this case we have the extra local variable that we can display. It's the user dict, the user dictionary, and it's that value which allows us in the view to display not the ID number, but display the first name and last name. So let's take one more look at the raw data in the transaction table, and here's the 5 columns. Now Notice the two columns, which are foreign keys. We've used one key to link to the products table. We've used the inner join strategy to link that information. And we used a dictionary here with the order ID or the customer ID to show the customer's first name and last name. Finally, let's superimpose our select statement onto our database schema. And so we use our transaction table here, the 5 columns, and notice our select statement is grabbing all 5 columns from that transaction table. Now we're linking to the product's ID with an inner join, and we're linking to the order or the customers table using a database. So those are the two different strategies we can use. One is execute SQL commands, and the other one is using dictionaries to join tables. In our next lesson, we'll look at reference integrity, which allows us to protect the integrity of the data either through the database or through our code in the Web2PY framework.